Hi everybody, thank you for joining me on the Green Life podcast. Today's first episode is starting really strong with the most amazing Dr. Fuhrman. I absolutely love him. He's one of the most outspoken straight shooters out there, and he really shares information that is life-giving and life-saving. He's a 7 times New York Times bestseller author. He's got an amazing range of supplements, vitamins, which he has designed for helping people to stay strong and healthy and combat deficiencies. And he also has an amazing retreat in Southern California, San Diego, where he hosts guests for at least a month to change their lifestyle completely and reverse disease. I think his work is fantastic. He's an amazing speaker. He has so much to share and he's really caring and loving. So we're going to really enjoy this episode with him. Welcome, Dr. Fuhrman.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fuhrman, for joining me today. It's such a pleasure to be able to speak to you and meet you. I've been a fan for a very long time, and you're the first guest on my new podcast called The Green Life. So I'm really, really excited. I couldn't start on a higher note.
Oh, wow. Terrific.
Yeah. So as per our conversation before, this new podcast is really about bringing information about health. And as a health coach, I just find myself swimming in different information and research. And I became plant-based, whole food plant-based, I should say, about 9 years ago, and I loved it. It really helped my health. But of course, I always have to check in with what my needs are. And I see that a lot of people are really confused about what health means. And in the last 2 years, I think that became really, really important to focus on. And one specific aspect of it for me that I just noticed, and I found your research and your books and also your talks that I found really informative about the correlation between weight and health and immunity. And I feel like a lot of people don't actually focus on the weight and being overweight, what that can mean for a person. Sometimes our blood work can be okay when we do it and we are overweight, but that doesn't mean it will stay that way for a long time. And I think for longevity and long-term health, you have a great view on what it really means to stay within a parameter of weight that is healthy. So I'd love to talk to you about that.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of factors involved. Certainly, the foundational principle of the nutritional portfolio I recommend is eating a lot of vegetables. Obviously, vegetables are most protective against cancer and promote longevity, especially green vegetables. But it's all about getting a lot of micronutrient density and diversity in our tissues of our body. So that actually have nutritional concentration in the food that then translates into nutritional concentration into the cells of our body. So we have to eat foods that have a high nutritional micronutrient bang per caloric buck. And of course, green vegetables win the award on that, win that race. But in any case, what we're saying is that because diets across the world are nutritionally deficient, because people are eating so many processed foods and animal products, which do not contain phytochemicals and antioxidants, that we're phytochemical and antioxidant deficient, which then accelerates aging and promotes cancer. I'm going to say that again in a different way, that in the dietary pie, for example, in the United States, 60% of calories come from processed foods like pasta, bread, salad oils, mayonnaise, cookies, crackers, donuts, whatever it is, bagels, cold cereals, breakfast bars. That's 60% of calories. And then another 30%, 35% are animal products. And a piece of chicken is like a bagel. In other words, if an animal product is like a processed food, they don't contain phytochemicals and antioxidants and fibers. And so it leaves that little percent. It's only 2% of the American diet is vegetables, and only 3% of the European diet is vegetables. The rest of it's, in other words, we're a vegetable dependent animal, and we're eating mostly animal products and processed foods. And both those things have to be radically reduced. And then for us to eat a diet that has obviously these whole natural foods, and I'm saying the whole natural plants, that olive oil and avocado oil is not a whole food. It's avocado and walnuts and olives that are the whole food. And when you eat the oil from the food instead of the whole food the oil came from, then you're not getting the sterols, the stanols, the fibers, the proteins, all the things that humans require and need for our sustenance and long-term survival. And it makes us and then when our nutrient levels are low, it makes us into a calorie-consuming monster. We can't stop wanting to overeat food. And then we can go into the dangers of excess body fat, but it's the combination of the excess body fat with a low nutrient density in our tissue that then drives overeating behaviors. So it's quite complicated it's complicated, but the good news is that these advances in nutritional science over the last 2 decades gives us a unique opportunity in human history to live longer and healthier than ever before, and to win the war on cancer and wipe out 90% of cancers across the modern world, prevent heart attacks and strokes and dementia, and allow people to live to 95 to 105 years old in excellent health. It's an unprecedented. So we have this great opportunity with nutritional science if we take advantage of this, and we can enjoy our lives and have a better quality of life.
I agree. So one of the things that I would say then, I think you probably agree, is that sometimes people that restrict calories are more about restricting nutrients than calories, because a calorie is not a calorie, correct?
Right. When people fail on diets because they can't cut back on calories, it's like trying to tell people to breathe less oxygen. Don't breathe at 18 breaths. Don't breathe at 15 breaths a minute. Breathe only at 10 breaths a minute. You're too uncomfortable doing that. You can't sustain it. People can't sustain cutting back their calories when their body gives them biological signals to eat more food. It's too uncomfortable. And the question is, why is this person getting biological signals to increase their caloric consumption when they're already overweight? And it has to do with the quality of the food they're eating and the nutrient content of their tissues, and how much reactive oxygen species and advanced glycation end products, these toxins build up in their tissues from the lack of phytonutrients. And then they become fatigued and weak and headachy and crampy, and they can't concentrate. And then they feel the desire to overeat because they're always somewhat toxic. And their body is going through, when they're not eating calories, the body's going through withdrawal. So they become food addicts, and they can't control their caloric intake. And concentrated calories have other addictive qualities. Besides the fatigue and the shakiness and the cramping and the head, besides feeling ill unless you keep the digestive tract going all the time, the concentrated calories of sugar, high glycemic carbohydrates like sugars and white flour products and oils, because they rush into the bloodstream so rapidly, stimulate dopamine receptors in the brain, which increase your desire to eat more calories. And then you become dopamine insensitive, which then makes you crave these foods more, because you have more of a need for excess calories, because you're not satisfied unless you're constantly eating sugars and oils and fried foods. And so it's a complicated biological mess, that to get out of that mess, you really have to eat a lot more food, a lot more healthy food. You can't just cut back on calories. You're going to feel too ill.
Yeah, I agree. I also found it quite interesting. You mentioned oil as a high GI, which nobody really does, because everybody focuses on carbohydrates when they go into the glycemic index table. But you actually mentioned oils are high glycemic index. They stimulate dopamine. For the person that doesn't know what that even means, could you explain it a little bit, the effect of oil in brain, perhaps?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that oil effect raises the glycemic index, because the word glycemic means sugar in the blood. So it's high glycemic carbohydrates like white rice and white potato and white flour and white bread that raises and honey and maple syrup and all these sweeteners people use that raise the glycemic index. But oil is similar to the word glycemic load is the amount of, or glycemic index, is the amount of glucose that enters the bloodstream quickly after you eat the food. Like beans could cause glucose to enter the bloodstream, but it enters so slowly over hours that they have a very low glycemic index, because not much sugar is coming into the blood, because it only comes in at 1 or 2 calories a minute. So you don't have to produce a lot of insulin to get it out of the bloodstream. Whereas if you eat a bagel or a piece of Italian bread or a pizza, then you have, 100 calories going to the bloodstream in the first 5 minutes. Oil is similar to that, but not the word, because if you eat a nut or a seed for the fat, like a pistachio nut or sesame seed, then the fat calories come into the bloodstream at 1 or 2 calories a minute. The body can preferentially burn those calories for energy as opposed to storing it as fat. But when 100 calories come in per minute, when you have oil, it's 120 calories a tablespoon. And because you extracted the oil from the fibers and sterols and stanols that were in the original seed or nut or whatever it was extracted from, instead of the oil coming in slowly, it rushes in all at once. So when you have so it's similar to the high glycemic load of eating white rice, let's say, eating oil, the calories come in all at once. It's the big load of calories entering the bloodstream that all in a few minutes that stimulates dopamine receptors in the brain. So the combination of oil and sugar or have the effect to be more brain stimulating and dopamine stimulating, those same areas of the brain, those same receptors that are stimulated by narcotics and cocaine and nicotine, right? So then the person becomes addicted to concentrated calories. You can't get concentrated calories absorbed in the natural world. If you were living in the jungles and the forest, scavenging food, you'd be eating vegetables and nuts and fruits and berries and leaves, and you couldn't get the calories to come in that fast. It would take a long time to digest these foods. So because these calories come in so rapidly, that's the effect on the brain centers. And then you become a food addict. And oils are very fattening because they say they go from the lips to the hips in 5 minutes flat. Because your body absorbs the extra calories it can't, and oil shuts down fat burning. It's a fat, when you take in fat on such a concentrated form, it's giving the body the signal to store it. And when you're giving the body to store it, it stops the body from burning up fat that's on your body.
I see.
So the whole natural world's been confused and scammed by this idea like that olive oil is a health food. Olive oil is a health food because it's better than butter, it's better than meats, because they're comparing it to other sources of fat, which are more dangerous. But when you compare olive oil to nuts like walnuts or pistachio nuts or even olives, when you compare it to the whole food, you find heart attack rates that the people get thinner and lower heart attack rates, longer life from cutting out the oil. It's only comparatively when certainly eggs are a dangerous food, but if you compare them to donuts, they look pretty good. So you can make anything look good by what you're comparing it to.
Yeah,
so I'm saying, compare the carbohydrate to a bean and see if it's better than a bean. It's not going to be better than a bean. Beans have have the most slowly digestible carbohydrates and the most resistant starch and the most fiber. Beans are the best starch over rice, and a potato, but potato looks better than sugar, you know what I mean? Or but then you compare oil to butter or oil to meat, and oil looks better than that, and oil looks better than white flour products, but it doesn't look better than eating a bean, and oil doesn't look better than eating nuts and seeds. Matter of fact, I think the most shocking findings over the last decade in the science of nutritional research is the power of nuts and seeds as the source of fat in the diet to dramatically reduce heart attack risk, cancer risk, and all-cause mortality by huge numbers. Huge degree of protection you get when your primary source of fat comes from whole nuts or seeds, as opposed to eating the oil from those nuts and seeds.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you're removing all the goodies that are in there and just remaining with the fat. So it makes no sense, really.
Exactly. The whole world's gone crazy. They think pouring oil on your food is health food instead of eating those nuts that made the oil. You know what I mean?
I mean, I grew up in an Italian family, so olive oil was, galore. And I only stopped really using oil in August last year. So not long ago, even though I heard and learned about the effects of oil and how a low fat or low oil or no oil diet and just keeping the fat with the nuts and seeds, it's better. Although then you have also physicians that say nuts are no good. I mean, there's so much information out there, but it really depends how you eat them. Because, for example, I'm the kind of person that can have peanut butter by the spoon. So I know I need to be careful. But if you use it for dressings or you use it sparingly, like you put your seeds on your oatmeal or on your salads, I think it's perfectly fine. But oil is true. I just never really connected to that concept because I had this emotional attachment to oil, if it makes sense, growing up with it. But actually, I'm finding that the food tastes better now that I don't cook with oil. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. When we, of course, as you know, we make tremendously different and delicious salad dressings and sauces, a Thai curry sauce, with different types of salad dressings and sauces and dips with oil. And I mean, without oil, with nuts and seeds, it tastes phenomenal. It actually makes it taste better. But it's funny how that, obviously, if you lived 100 years ago and you're working, 10 hours a day behind a plow all day in the farm, carrying a heavy 800-pound plow behind an ox, plowing the fields, a couple of tablespoons of olive oil is no big deal because you're burning it off. But nowadays, people, they don't exercise all day long. They're not walking, they're not burning 3,000 calories a day, and they're pouring extra calories over their food. And the telltale sign is they have fat on their body. If they've got significant fat on their body, more than 20 pounds for a female fat, or more than 30, because a male shouldn't have more than 15% of calories from fat on their body. So 15% of 150 pounds, right, is about, 10% is 15 pounds. So 15% is about 22 and a half pounds of fat. And for a female, if they're 120 pounds, so in other words, a female shouldn't have more than 25% of calories from fat. They're healthier when they're in that 20 to 25% range, and a male's healthier in the 10 to 15% body fat range. That means the BMI would be below 23. The males should be below 23 and females probably below 21 for maximal lifespan as far as body mass index. But the point is that fat on the body spews out reactive oxygen species, free radicals. It raises S-body's estrogen, increasing risk of prostate and breast cancer. And it interferes with immune function and makes you more prone to disease, including COVID and death, pneumonia death, flu death. In other words, it increases risk of infectious related death. It increases risk of, of course, it makes you insulin resistant, which then is so I'm saying all overweight people are somewhat pre-diabetic, even if they don't have high sugars, because they're producing too much insulin. And in excess insulin with excess estrogen puts you in a prime state to allow cancer cells to replicate because they're angiogenesis promoting. So so we can go into even more reasons. There's so many reasons why people don't recognize there's no such thing as a healthy overweight person, because they've denied themselves the ability to get their maximal genetic lifespan.
Yeah, actually,
if they could have eaten healthier and eaten more carefully, they could live longer and be much healthier. So they're damaging their potential for longevity to the extent that they're overweight. And the more overweight they are, the more potential longevity damage they've done to themselves. And the only reason that it looks, but in any case, obviously, in the United States now, our CDC just came out with a statistic that said 50% of Americans are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. Like what? Half of all the people are pre-diabetic and diabetic? That's like unbelievable how they're eating themselves to an early grave.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, they stay alive on medication. They can live longer, but they have a terrible quality of life, which I think is even worse in that way.
But they don't live longer though. They shorten that lifespan. It speeds up the aging clock. Your metabolism, the aging clock is sped up. So there's no long-lived overweight people. All centenarians, all people living.
No. I meant like you get probably.
You don't see overweight people at 100 years old. There's no such thing. You have to be a good weight if you want to live to be 100 years old. But you're right. They don't just die prematurely. They suffer before they die. The healthiest people live the longest. But the healthiest people that live the longest have the best quality of life before they die. When you die at a shorter life, when you're dying in your late 70s, let's say, instead of your late 90s, and you lost those 20 years of life, you're also sicker before you die too. So you've lost more than 20 years of your life. Yeah. You lost 30 years because you lost the 10 years before you died. So you lost 30 years of good quality life. Yeah. And this is what people don't realize. And they think they're enjoying their life more by eating all the junk food. And they're not even enjoying their life more because your taste buds acclimate to what you get used to eating, and you deaden your taste buds with all that highly palatable sweet food. And they can't enjoy a strawberry or peach as much. And they're not enjoying their food more. They just think they are because they're addicts, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like your opinion on this. There is obviously a big social media campaign on body positivity, which is accepting your body as it is. But I feel like I see a lot of people that are accepting their body as it is, but not necessarily being healthy. So they're promoting being overweight, being perfect, because they just accept that they are the way they are.
Healthy at any size, right?
Yeah.
Being healthy at any size. Yeah.
And this is not a judgment against people that are bigger, because I know we all have a different constitution. So our primary body shape per se, but I think there is no divide between your body shape and then your body weight. What are your thoughts about that? How can we educate people?
Well, look, of course, we want to understand and have compassion and love and try to help people, but that movement is a social movement that's damaging people and causing premature deaths. It's like encouraging people to smoke cigarettes and snort and stay alcoholics. Don't quit alcohol, be an alcoholic. It's like saying it's good to be an alcoholic. And it's because there was a big movement before that used to tell people that drinking alcohol is beneficial for your heart health. Remember that movement? That drink wine, it makes you live longer. They know they were increasing breast cancer rates from the alcohol, but people wanted to believe they liked their alcohol and they want to believe it's good for them. So they want to look for any reason to justify their constant drinking. It's the same thing with overweight people. It's very hard for them to lose weight. They don't have the knowledge, the professional help, and they're getting bad advice from the conventional wisdom about weight loss, and cutting calories or going on these high protein diets is killing people. And they don't get good results, and they're suffering with, well, I can't lose weight anyway, so I might as well accept myself and have other people accept who I am. And that's understandable. But we're saying something different here, in that I'm not blaming you. It's you've gotten bad advice, and the bad advice has screwed you up and made it difficult for you to lose weight, and it made you throw in the towel and check out and give up. But giving up and just feeling okay to be overweight or obese isn't the answer either. It's getting some good to get the right type of advice. But we have to give people, you would be selling those people out if you wanted to tell them it's okay to be overweight, because they could have lived 20 years longer if we got them on a good program and showed them how to make it taste great. So yeah, I mean, obviously there's no such thing as healthy at any size. You're unhealthy in proportion to the extra fat you have on your body. And the more overweight you are, the more unhealthy you are, regardless if your blood pressure or your glucose is normal or controlled with drugs. It doesn't matter. It's it's still going to, just being overweight accelerates your death. Yeah. So the message is twisted and distorted. It should be have compassion for people, for everybody, no matter who they are, what they look like, what color their skin, wherever they live. We're all humans with feelings and emotions and desires and deserve the equal human rights and assault. So there's so much evil and narcissistic there's so much humans destroying the planet and destroying each other and putting people down, and there's not enough compassion for people who have a worse lot in life. But in any case, with compassion and love, we should be able to reach out and help as many people as we can, and not just tell the overweight person, give up, stay overweight, like who you are, because we should try to say, if you want to get some good advice, here's what you probably should do to help you lose weight. That's about eating more food, not cutting back on calories, eating big salads, get more green vegetable exposure. Eat berries, eat more beans as your source of carbohydrate. You don't have to eat thimble-sized portions of food. We can show you how to lose weight sensibly, make it taste great, be great for your health. And it's about eating the right foods make you live longer. When you eat the right foods, you lose weight. When you eat the wrong foods that make you live shorter lives and increase cancer, you gain weight. So you can't be healthy at any size because they're eating the wrong foods, which are keeping them overweight. We know that the healthiest foods to lower rates of cancer are G-bombs. My acronym, G-bombs.
I love that. Let's spell it out for people who don't know what they are. I love the G-bombs.
Right, the G-bombs is GBOMBS, which stands for green vegetables, especially green cruciferous vegetable like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and kale and collards and bok choy and so greens, beans, and legumes, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds like flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, sunflower seeds.
Amazing. I actually remember you saying at IIN, the conference, you mentioned, that's what I actually found out about you, and I've been following you since, that mushrooms are antiangiogenic. So they stop the reproduction of capillaries that bring blood and oxygen into fat cells.
That's correct. And that's right. And they stop the ability of cancer cells to glean a blood supply as well, right? But you know what, cruciferous vegetables and soybeans and cinnamon and onions and mushrooms have anti-angiogenic effects, which counter the pro-angiogenic effects of insulin and of what, you know, of eating that are sweets. But the point we're making now is that's right. These foods are anti-fat storage. So the person that's overweight is not just overeating food, and not just metabolically. They're not just born with a bigger body, they're eating the wrong foods, which then created them to become overweight. Even if they weren't overweight, eating the wrong foods is going to shorten their life. So that eating the wrong foods make you overweight. Now, you know, I have a retreat here in San Diego. We're open all year round, and people fly in from all over the world and they stay here a few months. And it doesn't matter if they have trouble losing weight. When they eat the healthy food, and we're not giving them little tiny portions, we have chefs making them delicious meals that I'm eating the same meals. But when they're here, they're dropping about 15 to 20 pounds the first month, usually about 10 pounds each month thereafter. They stay for a few months. A lot of people lose 30 or 40 pounds, and they go home with the knowledge and the skills how to continue the process. I had one woman, for example, lost 50 pounds when she was here, and then she went home and lost another 200 pounds. She lost 250 pounds. And not restricting, not eating, not being on a diet, just eating so healthily made her lose the weight. Yeah. You know, but why they come here is because a lot of these people recognize it becomes an addictive behavior that they can't break out of on their own. So when they come here, we're able to give them an interlude where they're having abstinence from their addictive triggers. It's like you can't give the alcoholic, take them to the bars on the weekend to drink, because then it makes them want to drink more. You have to but eventually, if they stay away from alcohol long enough, they don't want it anymore. If you stay off the cigarettes for a year, you don't want them anymore. But so there's an emotional attachment people have to the foods they're raised on, the foods that got them overweight to begin with. And so in other words, we see with time, people can learn to prefer to eat healthfully, and the results they get are miraculous, because not just weight loss, their diabetes goes away, their joint pains, they can walk better, their knee pain, their back pain, but their psoriasis goes away, and their breathing problems go away, and their asthma and their blood pressure normalizes. And obviously food is the best medicine, and it enables people to live without fear and be much happier and be emotionally more stable. Because as these people that so-called, instead of learning to feel good about being overweight, which is causing them to have a brain fog and not be able to concentrate, not be able to be active, and not be able to go to the beach and play tennis, and we play pickleball here and go into they can't enjoy their life. We bring back these people's enjoyment of life, and they still enjoy the food just as much because they learn how to make the healthy stuff taste good. It's really, you're selling people out and taking away their opportunity to have a better life if you're going to convince them it's okay to remain overweight. It's like the healthy at any size movement is really not good. It's not even goodwill for those people, because they don't even know enough to give that type of advice.
Yeah, I agree. And you went into the retreat, which is what I wanted to talk to you about, because I feel like it's such a brilliant idea to offer people the opportunity to be there on the ground for a lengthy, longer time, for changing, their physiology. Because it takes about 3 months to get your blood to renew and get your blood test to show something different. So it's a great thing that it can be there for that long if they wanted to. But you're right, it's also emotional. Our
minimal stay is 30 days. That's the minimum stay, because we gear the lectures and the training over the month to be in 30-day cycles. And, when people go away for a week or two to these health retreats and they eat so super healthy for a week or two and they lose weight, they all go home and gain it back again.
Yes.
Because I've seen over the years that you need to be immersed for a longer period of time. And that's why I prefer people to come for 2 or 3 months, because my experience over the years is that people that stay the longest and really becomes who they are. And it's just like cocaine addiction. You can't come off your cocaine for a week and then you're going to go back on, more likely to go back on it. So the longer you stay with this degree of enforced abstinence away from your addictive triggers, it decreases the chance of recidivism, and it increases the risk you're going to enjoy it and stick with it when you go home. We see that all the time. So that's why I built this place where people could design for people to stay longer, you know what I mean? And really make sure they take care of their health issues, as you're saying, and change their whole future trajectory of their life has changed now, you know?
Absolutely. I feel like, so do you feel like you moved your medical practice from just having, not just, but having your medical practice in New York, you moved it to California and expanded it into a retreat. So you are now all the time looking after your patients.
Right. But also I have chefs making me food too, and I don't have to clean dishes anymore. It's like, well, I feel spoiled. I feel almost embarrassed that I actually having professionals make my own food and cleaning up after me and shopping for me. It's like, what? I mean, this is like, it's too, like, you know, I feel embarrassed to have that kind of, you know what I mean?
Well, you're gaining more time to educate, which I don't know how you did all the things you used to do. I mean, you were really busy. You had your practice, you were writing, you were speaking. It takes an enormous amount of time and energy, so things get sacrificed. And I think maybe at this time, this is probably more balanced for you. Do you feel that way?
Yes, I'm having a more balanced life now. I'm not writing books anymore, just in little booklets, but I'm not spending, you know, I used to be working all day and writing half the night, not getting enough sleep. And then, so now I'm sleeping more, having more time for my own exercise and entertain, you know, and recreational activities like hiking up a mountain yesterday with my dog, or playing tennis the day before, you know, or before I went to the dog beach and ran on the beach they have this dog beach with like 100 of dogs running around, jumping in the air and going in the water. It's so much fun. But yes, I have more time for just, for have a more balanced life, and I'm still working, but not working as much as I used to.
Beautiful. And so I hear your daughters are kind of following in their father's steps when it comes to health and nutrition. So they have a brand, the Doctor's Daughters. So is that in collaboration with you, or did they just did it like, Dad, we're going to do it with your name on it? We're just going to push that we are your daughters.
Oh, my name's not on it. That's their name.
No, I mean that we are your daughters. You're the Doctor's Daughter. So how did that start? How did you get them into this lifestyle so that they want to create a line of products that reflected health?
Oh, I didn't really do anything. You just raise kids and love them, you know, and they become who they are. You know, it's like, but I have wonderful children, so I'm very proud of that. And so I have 4 kids. I have 3 daughters and a son. My son is the youngest one. My daughters are all into like healthy living, and one of my daughters works in the business with me. The other one is in naturopathic school, and the other one is a writer. And so, but in any case, they're having a great time, and they have that. My daughters have this business where they're making some healthy foods, and so it's kind of like intertwined, because I'm buying healthy substances, healthy foods to make it easy for people to do this. Like I have a line of salad dressings that don't have oil or salt in them, or a ketchup that has no salt or sugar or oil in it, so to make a healthy, you know, or make a healthy sauce, like I have a Thai sauce to put on vegetables, or so I do make, make products to make eating this way do easier to do for people, you know what I mean? And so they're all into that, because they're all, all about, they understand the concept of, you know, people make healthy eating enjoyable and doable, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. And they grew up with it. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah, they grew up with it. I remember when they would bring their friends over the house, and we make some of their friends like a delicious, ice cream out of frozen bananas and real cocoa powder or something, or, you know, and then the friend would say, oh, how could I get this is fantastic, you know, so that they like impress their friends at how good we can make healthy food taste. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Beautiful. And your son, what about him? Is he interested in healthy eating or in sports?
He's interested in mostly in being an inventor, inventing electronic, you know. So he's younger. He's only 20 years old. So he's in college at UCSD in the engineering, computer and electrical engineering program.
Okay.
So I don't know what he's going to do right now, but right now he's doing well in school and he's on the ski team and he's having the time of his life. He loves it there. He's doing well in school and I think he's, whatever he does, he's going to be very successful.
Beautiful. Congrats. That's awesome. So in terms of, let's give people a little bit of an example, how to implement these G-bombs into their day. So can we give an example of what you eat in a day?
Sure. Well, the most important meal is lunch. And because the most important part of your day is having a salad at least once a day. And we want the salad to be a large salad, not just a soup bowl, not a 6-inch salad bowl, but a full 9-inch, a bigger salad bowl. And we want half of it to be lettuce and the other half to be something cruciferous. So it doesn't have to be half, but at least a third, maybe arugula, watercress, bok choy, broccoli, some kind of cabbage, some kind of other. So you want a big salad, tomatoes, and then you want to put onion and scallion in the salad, like scallion or green onion or red onion in the salad. So with a nut and seed based dressing. And then maybe a bowl of vegetable bean soup with mushrooms and onions or something in it. And then maybe some fruit for dessert, cherries or frozen cherries or peaches or whatever it could be frozen fruit or fresh fruit. And then, so that's the most important meal of the day because raw vegetables have the most consistent and powerful association with the reduction of cancers of all types. And you want to chew that very, very well. It's the dinner when we're making a more fancy vegetable dish, like a Thai vegetable wok, where we put in water chestnuts and snow pea pods and different types of like trumpet mushroom and oyster mushroom mixed with bamboo shoots, with a Thai sauce made with lemongrass and coconut and hemp seeds and turmeric and curry powder. And we make a delicious sauce for it and maybe having I might have a little, a hummus dip or a salsa dip or a chili on the side or chili, on the side. And then breakfast might be where I take my seeds, like the chia seeds and the flax seeds and mix it with maybe either oats and berries, wild berries, and maybe some hemp walnut milk or something made with real vanilla bean powder and banana with the nuts, when mixed in made a milk out of it on top of some oats and berries or something with seeds on it. So I might have, it might vary around, but basically the main thing is to have that giant salad for lunch, and at dinner time have some raw vegetables, but have some cooked vegetables, especially cooked greens. So you're having more raw greens and beans with your lunch and more cooked greens and other vegetables at dinner. And we're trying to go after a wide variety of natural foods, a wide variety of different types of foods, because different fibers and different phytochemicals work synergistically to improve your lifespan and immune function.
Absolutely. And what's the latest time someone should have dinner at?
Well, that's right. Well, here we serve dinner at 5:00, so people are done eating by the latest 6:00. So they have, if they go to bed at 10 at night, they have 4 hours to digest the food. We want people to go to bed on an empty stomach and not have food, not to be digesting food while you're lying down a month and having reflux. And because most healing and repair and detoxification occurs in the non-digestive state, and mostly at night when you have all that extended period of time when there's no digestion going on. So we want to extend that healing phase by eating dinner earlier and lighter and not having a full heavy dinner. I know when I went to Europe a lot to travel, that a lot of times people were eating dinner at 8:00 at night and that's their big meal of the day sometimes. And that's not great for your longevity to go to eat so late, and better to eat earlier and not eat later at night.
Yeah, I struggle with that here in Europe. I must say, I live in Portugal at the moment. We have a farm, and it was supposed to be a retreat before COVID happened, but we are growing our own food. But when we came here, just exploring, going out for dinner, and everything opens at 7:30, and that's way too late for me. I don't sleep well. I can't sleep when I eat late. And in Spain is worse. They are next door. They eat at 9, 10 o'clock at night. I just don't know how to do it. I'm like, oh my
people
God.
Are still eating at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. That's not good for their health to eat so late in the day. And it makes you gain weight too when you eat late at night too. Calories should be consumed earlier in the day, not late in the day.
Yeah, totally. I can feel the difference. I'm very, very sensitive to that, actually. And what do you feel about green smoothies and green juices? Are you a fan or not so much?
Yeah, but just not to put too much fruit in the smoothie. To make it, if it's green, make it like a blended salad with a little bit of fruit, a little bit of berries, a half an apple. Sweeten it a little bit, but don't make it all fruit with a little bit of green, because your fruit should be chewed and mixed with saliva mostly. You shouldn't be juicing or blending your fruit as much as eating it whole. So yeah, but don't make it so sweet. Just put a little bit of fruit in it. That's fine, but it doesn't replace eating the salad. The problem when people stop eating salads and just have green smoothies and juices, because actually chewing the greens and chewing the onion and chewing these things in your teeth, good for your teeth, good for your gums, good for your jaw, but it creates the bacteria in your mouth, mixes with the nutrients in the food and creates other beneficial compounds. So there's still an advantage to eating a salad that you chew very well. And since you bring that up, when most people eat salads, they don't chew it they swallow it without just chewing it well enough. So you really should chew super well to try to liquefy the mouthful of those raw vegetables to get more nutritional value out of it. And so we're talking about eating differently, but also actually eating different foods, but actually eating the different foods differently. So you're chewing them much better and not just eating raw veg and trying to break them down with your teeth more finely,
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great tip. Yeah, you're right. And I'm bad at that. I'm very bad at that. I inhale my food. I don't actually chew it. It's terrible. And I'm telling people to be mindful, eat mindfully. So I have to listen to my own advice.
Yeah.
Sometimes. What about things like protein powders? Are you a fan or you don't think they're necessary?
Well, one of the other interesting findings from the scientific literature over the last decade was that more animal protein in the diet made for shorter lifespans. That as animal protein increased in the diet, people died younger with more animal protein. But the opposite came with plant protein. As they ate more plant protein, they lived longer. And that's especially we're talking about 3 types of foods that are high in plant protein here: green vegetables, beans, and nuts and seeds. The fruit doesn't have much protein in it compared to green vegetables and beans and nuts and seeds. So when your diet becomes, and rice is not, so when your diet is, so we found out that a plant diet of mostly rice or mostly potato or mostly grains or mostly fruit is not ideal. We have to eat the beans and greens and nuts to get the protein adequacy out of the diet. And we also noted that when people over the age of 80, as they got older, their ability to assimilate protein decreases. And some people would get too much muscle wasting, bone wasting, and immune system deficiencies due to lack of essential proteins. So you can do that with more hemp seeds and more Mediterranean pine nuts and more broccoli and more. You don't need to have protein powders, but for some people getting older or maybe a real professional athlete, it might be easier for them to add a little protein powder, but not isolated soy protein. We're talking about a protein powder made with hemp seed or hemp protein or pea protein to just add to their food a little bit. But for the vast majority of people, that is absolutely not necessary. It's particularly necessary for the person as they age that starts to be losing too much muscle, getting too thin, and finds their IGF-1 get too low. Then they should. And so some people may even have to add animal protein if their IGF-1 drops too low. But in the real world, what happens to most people is they accelerate their death because their IGF-1 is too high from too much animal protein. So they have to cut back on protein to their IGF-1 at the favorable range. It's only these vegans on low protein diets that have their IGF-1 get too low, and then we have to get them a little bit back up there again. So there's that sweet spot of not getting too low or too high. So the bottom line is paying attention to the plant protein content of your diet is valuable and important. So you don't go on like a rice diet, a rice-based diet and just live on white rice or something. You really, if you're on a plant diet, you should be eating the foods that have more protein, including soybeans.
Yeah,
soybeans are lifespan enhancing. To eat some soybeans are in your diet. Tempeh, edamame, dried beans made into a chili. And we use a variety of different types of beans, but soybeans are one of the beans we use. And we also use sprouts and microgreens. And you know what it is? 30, 40 years ago, they didn't even have all these healthy foods around. Yeah. Now we have so much more access to all these healthy foods you could buy in the supermarkets, because the studies have showed so much benefits of sprouts and greens and baby greens and wild blueberries, and now we can buy this stuff. So you have the opportunity to be healthy that our ancestors or our parents couldn't even eat as healthy as you could eat today.
I agree. I tell my clients, if they don't have a garden, to start sprouting in their kitchen. That can be their micro garden, because they're also incredible at nutrients absorption, and much higher actually in nutrients than other greens in salads, because the sprouting process makes it easy to digest. So probably it's the digestive process that it's easier. And what about what about people that are worried that if they go on a plant-based diet, they're missing out on something? A lot of them would be protein. We just cleared that up. It's not a problem with protein. You can find protein in the beans, in the soy, and the tofu, so you're fine with protein. And the greens also have that, which is brilliant. But a lot of people are worried that they can be deficient in something. And I always check people's gut health, because I think sometimes the problem is not so much that you're not getting your nutrients because the food is deficient, but mostly because you're not absorbing it. What's your view on that? Do you feel like the gut health obviously has a big part to play, right?
Well, the gut, but you can't have a good gut health unless you don't eat healthy foods. Mm-hmm. You can't even take a probiotic to have good gut health. Gut health is all about a diversity of fibers and diversity of natural foods, which is the foundational point of a Nutritarian diet, is to eat a wide diversity of different natural foods. The only way you have good gut health, and by chewing better. But if a plant-based diet does not have adequate B12 in it, and it has borderline levels of zinc, because the phytic acid binds zinc, there's some deficiencies that are potentially could arise on a plant-based diet, including some women who bleed regularly. They can be deficient in iron as well. But so it's B12 and zinc, and then some people need more DHA and EPA, more especially DHA for the brain. More recent science has been cumulatively supportive of the idea that a low omega-3 index, that means the amount of omega-3 on your cell membranes, if it gets too low, it's linked to more cognitive impairments and shrinkage of the brain with aging. So having a good omega-3 index is important to pay attention to on a vegan diet. So that's why most vegans we find need some vegan EPA and DHA to keep their brain health as they get older in good shape. So we measure that on a blood test to make sure they're getting the right DHA. But iodine, if you're not ever using iodine, it's zinc, iodine, vitamin. Some people need vitamin D supplementations, right? Because if they're not living outdoors, and they don't want to get skin damage from the sun. But it's mostly B12 and zinc and DHA. DHA, EPA are the most important things vegans have to be aware of. But sometimes they have to pay attention to iodine, iron, and zinc as well. Let's see. Yeah, iodine. I know vitamin D, iodine, vitamin D. Yeah, and also in our supplement we give people K2 too, which is good for the bones. You don't get that much with plants. So we just try to add a little bit extra of things that plants don't give you as much, that animal products might be a little richer in, to make sure people aren't missing anything.
Actually, I found that you are one of the very few doctors in the plant-based community that is standing that some supplementation can be necessary or should be used. Because a lot of them say that it's not, and aside from B12, everybody has consensus that we need that. But I know you have your own range of supplements, which I think is brilliant, because I'd rather buy it from somebody that has got the knowledge and is studying and is looking into getting the best way to deliver these vitamins, rather than having just buying anything online, which I think is probably where this misconception of vitamins are not good for you comes from. That the fact that sometimes you can just get very crappy vitamins.
I think it's that there are certain supplemental ingredients like folic acid that are in conventional supplements that are linked to higher rates of cancer, and vitamin A and supplemental vitamin E. There's definitely data in the scientific literature that taking these supplements can hurt you. But that doesn't mean taking everything can hurt you. It's taking certain things you don't need do hurt you. But one thing that I feel is, malpractice or very disinformation is the vegan community thinking that you're okay with just B12 when a lot of people develop dementia in their later years. I have a unique experience caring for the vegan community for the last 30, 40 years, where we had large amounts of healthy vegans. I was responsible for as their physicians, and they developed neurological problems in later life and dementia that could be traced back to their low levels of DHA, of omega-3 in their bloodstream. And the studies subsequent on that to document that show that all those studies measuring that show that it puts people at higher risk. So there's some philosophical denial because people see veganism as a religion, and they don't want to think there's anything missing, or they don't. And a lot of these doctors with their huge egos don't want to defend their prior proclamations and their prior writings, and they don't want to admit they were wrong too. And a lot of these people, there's misinformation in the keto and paleo community and the meat-based diets, and there's misinformation in the vegan community as well, because nobody wants to say, well, I could have been wrong about that. There's a lot of overwhelming evidence that show that this is not great or that's not great. People don't want to give up their meat-based diets. They don't want to give up the idea of what they said, that the low-fat vegan diet without supplementation is good enough. But too many people develop problems, neurologic problems and mental disorders as they age. And I've been witness to that, and don't want to be responsible for hurting people. So Absolutely. We want to make sure that nobody gets in trouble on any diet. They make sure they do the right thing. And the right thing is making sure you have not just adequate B12, but making sure your omega-3 index is adequate as well, because being deficient in anything is dangerous.
Yeah.
Even being deficient in iron or being deficient in iodine or being deficient in vitamin D could be bad. But that doesn't mean we want to give people excessive amounts either. And they can argue. It's funny how people will say they're trying to defend not giving a supplement. So they'll pull out a study where people got excessive amounts of fish oil and cause some problem because they were taking a high dose, as if a little bit's going to prevent deficiency is the same as taking too much. Like too much vitamin D is not good, but we don't really justify being deficient in it either. We want to be in that sweet spot in the middle.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there's there's extreme radical extremists on all sides here. You know what I mean? We've got to be conservative and make sure we're not hurting anybody.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I have a couple of questions from a few people, if we can end with a couple of them, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So one of them is, I'm not overweight, but I am insulin resistant, and my I'm insulin resistant. What should I do?
Change the diet. Eat a diet with low, eat a diet. Learn about the Nutritarian diet. And my most recent book is called Eat for Life. Start by studying that book.
I have it here.
Go through it, underline it, highlight it, learn what you're supposed to eat right and get rid of your insulin resistance, because we know that the opposite of insulin resistance is insulin sensitivity. Yep. And insulin sensitivity is in all long-lived people, healthy people living in their late 90s and 100 years old, they're all insulin sensitive, not insulin resistant. So you want to eat a diet that's going to get rid of that insulin resistance. So if you're not overweight, then if you are insulin resistant, you're eating the wrong foods. And you probably have too much fat on your body, even though you're not overweight. You could be looking like you're a normal weight, and your muscle to fat ratio could not be favorable. So you may need to exercise more regularly, because you may have fat mixed in with your tissue. So you're not looking like you're overweight, but you're still not muscular enough. So you may have to do more exercise as well as eating right to get you back to insulin sensitivity again.
In terms of exercise, do you think weight training or cardio is best?
I think it's great to have a variety of different types of exercise you do. Like I climb mountains and I play tennis and I do weights and I do pulleys and I swim. I just do a lot of different things. I'm not saying doing what I do is right, but I'm saying it's better to do different types of exercise and not just do the same thing every day. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Vary it up. Yeah.
Brilliant. Another question is, this is an interesting one. My B12 levels are more than normal, but I have high homocysteine.
Mm-hmm. Well, if they have high homocysteine, it could be because they're deficient in an enzyme, the methyl tetrahydrofolate enzyme. So it depends. If they're high homocysteine and the B12 levels are elevated, then they probably need to take methyl tetrahydrofolate to bring down the homocysteine. If the homocysteine is above 15. If it's not above 15, you probably should do nothing. There's nothing wrong with it being a little elevated. Maybe it's not that high, even though maybe it's been told it's a little high. So unless it's really high, if it's really high, you might need to take methyl tetrahydrofolate.
Okay, brilliant. Good to know. And then, well, we answered the other questions because actually they were mine, but they were from other people as well about the smoothies and the juices. Because a lot of people now are doing, including me, I'm not going to lie, the celery juice first thing in the morning. So I kind of hydrate myself with the celery juice, just celery, and then I'll have my breakfast after. I hope it's a good thing. I mean, I don't add any fruit in it, it's only celery, but a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah. I don't think there's any point in doing that. You're probably just getting in more salt in the morning that you need anyway. Celery is the food that's highest in salt. So I'd rather you a glass. Now I put people on juices because they're starting out with so few nutrients in their tissues, especially with autoimmune disease. We want to build it up quicker to get them well faster. So we give them like carrot, beet, celery, lettuce, cucumber, and some bok choy in there too. We make a juice just to build their nutrients up. But I don't see the necessity to eat celery juice or just eat the vegetables. And if you want to have a juice, it's not so bad, but I don't see the need for that.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Fuhrman. It's been beyond a pleasure. I love talking to you and listening to you. So thank you for making the time. I so appreciate it. I will be sharing all the information about you on the podcast notes, and so that people can find your retreat, which I think is fantastic. I wish I was a little closer and traveling wasn't so hard. I would definitely come. And
maybe in future years you'll have to come and visit then.
Yeah, I would love to. I hope that I really hope that I can. And likewise, you're always welcome to come to Portugal. And,
I've been there. I've been to Portugal twice already.
Amazing. Where did you go?
Let's see. We went. I think we had a getaway. We had a getaway there where I did a European trip where we did a Nutritarian trip. And we went to both Italy and Portugal there. We took a bunch of like 40, 50 healthy people on a healthy eating tour through the Mediterranean there. So we were in all the major areas,
Cool. Did you stay more in the south or did you come north? I'm in the north, so I don't know if you've been to North Portugal.
No, I don't think we're in the north though.
Yeah, everybody goes down to the Algarves and Lisbon, but the north is beautiful. I'm very close to Jerez National Park, so lots of greens, mountains, hills. It's beautiful. Cool. So when you come, you'll be seeing this. So I hope you do. And then, everybody should get your book. So I'll post this because I think it's fantastic. And I love that you have the recipes in here, which is really helpful. Sometimes we give in information and then no guideline, and the recipes in here are great. So thank you for that.
Sure. All right. Good talking to you and your team.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and thank you so much to Dr. Fuhrman for joining us today. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast, to share